If you follow One Piece, you know how the Gear 5th reveal took over the internet by storm when it was finally adapted on the anime. This media frenzy also sparked considerable debate among fans. Many enjoyed the new power-up while others strongly disliked it, and both sides had solid arguments to back their viewpoints. Yet personally, I believe that Gear 5th stands as the best anime power-up since the OG. Goku's Super Saiyan transformation against Frieza, and it's arguably one of the most thematically fitting power-ups in the history of shonen anime. Now, with enough distance from the anime debut, I decided to go into more detail about it. I structured the video in some topics. First, I'll introduce what makes a shonen power-up successful, then I'll talk about what makes Gear 5th specifically so successful. And finally, I'll address some of the criticisms to this transformation. This is Supernova, your fantasy and sci-fi cosmic explosion, and this is why Gear 5th is the perfect anime power-up. Let's get to it. The power-up transformation trope is a staple in shonen anime, serving as a narrative device that amplifies tension, excitement, and character development. One of the most iconic examples of this trope is found in the Dragon Ball series. Goku's various transformations, like the Super Saiyan forms, have become legendary moments in anime. These power-ups often signify a drastic surge in the character's strength, triggered by intense emotions, personal growth, or training, embodying the central shonen theme of striving for self-improvement. While the power-up transformation trope in shonen anime is highly popular and effective, it can also be associated with some common clichés. These clichés, when overused, can make the narrative predictable and formulaic. One common cliché is the sudden, inexplicable unlocking of a new power or transformation in the midst of a dire battle. This can lead to a lack of foreshadowing and character development, making the power-up feel like a deus ex machina. Some series also fall into the trap of repeatedly introducing new forms or levels of power, with each one being touted as the ultimate transformation. This can lead to power creep and diminish the impact of earlier transformations. Characters often seem to have an almost limitless well of energy when they transform, allowing them to fight for extended periods without tiring. This can strain believability and remove the stakes. While these clichés are common in shonen anime, they are not inherently negative. When used effectively and innovatively, they can enhance the narrative and provide moments of excitement and character development. However, over-reliance on these clichés can lead to predictability and a lack of narrative depth. Successful shonen series often find a balance between adhering to these tropes and subverting expectations to keep the storytelling fresh and engaging. In order to understand what kind of value the use of this trope can add to the narrative, let's look at Goku's first transformation into a Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball Z as a case study. This is the father of all power-ups, and it's also thematically fitting for the character, as well as the series as a whole for several key reasons. Goku's journey as a character is one of constant self-improvement and pushing his limits. The Super Saiyan transformation represents the culmination of this growth. Goku's unwavering determination, his endless pursuit of becoming stronger, and his ability to overcome insurmountable odds all lead to this moment. This transformation showcases that anyone can evolve and become more powerful with hard work and dedication, a central theme in the series. Goku's transformation is triggered by a deeply emotional event, the death of his close friend Krillin at the hands of the villain Frieza. This emotional turmoil unleashes his dormant power and transforms him into a Super Saiyan. This theme of emotions fueling power resonates throughout the series, showing that personal connections and feelings can be a source of strength. Goku's transformation serves as a symbol of hope for the Z-Fighters and the Earth. Up to this point, the heroes have faced numerous powerful foes, and it seemed like there was no way to defeat the seemingly invincible Frieza. Goku's transformation signifies that there's always a glimmer of hope, no matter how dire the situation. This is a recurring theme in the series, emphasizing the importance of never giving up. The transformation also aligns with the inherent warrior spirit of the Saiyan race. It is said that Super Saiyans are born out of anger, conflict, and the will to protect. This idea is in line with their reputation as fierce warriors, and it ties the transformation to the series' broader themes of battle, conflict, and the desire for self-improvement. So, in summary, Goku's first transformation is amazing from a narrative perspective because it is thematically fitting for both his character and the series as a whole, and it is also well placed in the narrative for being introduced in a climactic situation while facing a formidable foe. So, with this framework in mind, does Gear 5th fit the bill and fulfill these requirements? Yes, the answer is yes. So what is so great about Gear 5th as a shonen power-up? In my opinion, for the same reasons Goku's first transformation is great. Because it makes sense for the character, it makes sense for the story as a whole and the world, and it makes sense in the moment it was introduced. I can even add an extra point and highlight that it is also elevated by the animation, voice acting, and even by the way Luffy's movements and mannerisms when he transforms fit the situation so well. But why does it make sense for the character? Throughout the series, Luffy has consistently demonstrated his capacity for adaptation and creativity. His existing gears, such as Gear 2nd to 4th, were born out of his ingenuity and desire to push the limits of his devil fruit when compared to others in the series. Introducing a new transformation like Gear 5th feels like the extrapolation of this theme to its logical limits. If Luffy grew in power with creativity and resourcefulness, it makes sense that his ultimate form represents boundless creativity to realize anything he can imagine. Luffy embodies freedom, lightheartedness, goofiness, and adventure. In chapter 507, when he meets Rayleigh, he asks Luffy if he has what it takes to rule the Grand Line, and his response is pretty clear. I'm not going to rule anything. The freest man on these seas is the Pirate King. He sees the Pirate King as someone with unbounded freedom, and a power such as Gear 5th is a vehicle that allows him to reach this ideal. The ironic thing is, Luffy achieves the unbounded freedom he desires during his quest to become Pirate King, instead of achieving it as a consequence of becoming the Pirate King. It's a classic example of the journey is the destination. And why does it make sense for the world? One Piece has a rich history of incorporating mythological and legendary elements into its world building. The concept of Joy Boy, a mythical figure bringing joy and freedom, seamlessly integrates with the overarching narrative of the series. Many aspects of One Piece's lore, such as the Void Century and the ancient weapons, are shrouded in mystery and myth, making Joy Boy a significant thematic addition. One Piece is a story about freedom and liberation, and Luffy's journey to become the Pirate King embodies these themes. Gear 5th's reality-bending abilities reflect the idea of breaking free from the constraints of reality and society, perfectly mirroring the broader theme of seeking freedom in a world governed by the world government and the emperors. Oda is known for his intricate world building and storytelling. The revelation of Gear 5th's connection to Joy Boy introduces an element of mystery and intrigue, further propelling the story forward. It's consistent with Oda's approach of gradually unveiling the world's secrets to keep readers engaged, and those elements were heavily foreshadowed throughout the narrative. As One Piece has progressed, so has Luffy's power level. Gear 5th represents a natural and exciting progression in his abilities, in a way to make him well equipped for the end game, fitting into the pattern of Luffy continuously becoming stronger and confronting even more formidable adversaries. And why does introducing this transformation make sense for the moment? The introduction of a new transformation during this critical battle, in which the protagonist finally defeats one of the Emperors of the Sea, signals the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. Kaido and Big Mom represent the old guard, the existing Emperors of the Sea who have ruled with an iron grip. Luffy's victory over them symbolizes the transition of power, marking the start of a new era where a new set of emperors, including Luffy, Buggy, and Blackbeard, can rise to prominence. This thematic shift aligns with the broader narrative of One Piece, which is built on a world constantly evolving and changing. Luffy's defeat of Kaido and Big Mom carries immense symbolic weight. It signifies his ascent as a true contender in the world of piracy and establishes his legacy as a formidable figure in the One Piece world. Thematically, this battle reinforces the idea that individuals can challenge the status quo and make their mark in history, emphasizing the theme of freedom and the pursuit of dreams. So, introducing Gear 5th transformation at this point of the story raises our protagonist to a status worthy of an Emperor of the Sea. This pivotal moment in the story is poised to redefine the balance of power and set the stage for a new and exciting chapter in the world of One Piece, and the transformation helps elevate this moment. As a bonus point, I just want to point out that despite the endless anime criticisms, in this instance the anime really elevates the material, the animation, voice acting, sound design, and even the way Luffy moves and interacts with the environment feels not only like an intentional homage from Oda to cartoons, but also like a natural evolution of how Luffy behaves in battle, while also feeling surprised and unpredictable enough to keep things fresh. It is, in my humble opinion, a brilliant display of Oda's creativity and originality as an author. So now let's talk about some of the criticisms. As I mentioned, some arguments against Gear 5th are reasonable, they just don't resonate with me as much because they're based on overvaluing some story aspects that are just not that important to me as a reader of fiction. For example, people criticize the fact that the Gomu Gomu fruit clearly wasn't originally conceived as the Nika fruit in early One Piece, and it was retconned by Oda at some point in the story. One of the arguments for that is the fact that usually a devil fruit user inherently knows the name of its fruit or whatever, so therefore Luffy should have known that his fruit wasn't actually the Gomu Gomu no Mi, also because the elders, who changed the name of the fruit in the past, should have realized Luffy's threat level way earlier, considering they already knew the nature of his abilities since his first bounty was out, to which I say, who cares? A plot development can be valid if it wasn't planned since the beginning. The internet in general has this huge boner for authors who carefully plan everything, and they get disappointed when some signs are shown that a freaking serialized piece of fiction proves that everything wasn't planned from the start. Emphasis in the serialized, by the way, which eliminates the possibility of the author going back to earlier chapters and foreshadowing something important, like it is usually done in books. A plot point can be good and valid as long as it fits the character and the themes of the story. Planning every step of a story doesn't necessarily equate to being a good writer, and imposing this to the authors of media we consume can stunt their creative process, which involves also allowing the story and the characters to carry the narrative, instead of just forcing everything to fit into this predefined framework of how the story should go. There are also some criticisms about Luffy becoming another victim of the Chosen One trope cliché. While Luffy does seem to fit the Chosen One mold in some ways, it's essential to differentiate between destiny and will. Luffy's journey has always been guided by his own will, dreams, and the promises he's made. Even if there's a larger destiny at play, the choices he makes, the friends he gathers, and the challenges he overcomes are born out of his own volition. Eating the fruit doesn't necessarily mean anything if it's not aligned with what the user wants to achieve with it. He's survived more than 1,000 chapters using only creativity and perseverance, with a fruit that, before awakened, had pretty limited powers compared to some of the other Logias introduced in the story, and he still persevered. And I also think it's worth it to add that themes of destiny and the idea of Luffy being destined for greatness have always been present in the narrative. The concept of destiny and fate have been brought up in connection with Luffy since almost the very beginning of the story. Concepts such as the inherited will and the will of D have always implied that Luffy was destined for something big. Early in Fishman Island we hear of a prophecy that predicts the impact Luffy will have in historical events. Also, to go back to the Five Elders argument, maybe the reason they didn't particularly care about the Straw Hats earlier on is because, despite not being able to get a hold on the Hito Hito no Mito for 800 years, there have probably been many users throughout these centuries who were useless with that ability, presented no threat to the government, and never awakened its full potential. Luffy was useless for a good while, and it took years of practice for him to develop even the pistol. For all intents and purposes, it was a weak fruit, and Luffy made it formidable due to his immense creativity. He had to make it powerful. And there are already moments where he may have very slightly tapped into the Nika ability already. This is also a testament of the agency Luffy has in the situation, and the fact that it is a legendary fruit doesn't undermine his achievements. Some people also criticize it for being too silly, to which I respond, have you read One Piece? Are we talking about the same Luffy that used Arlong's dentures as brass knuckles, or who looked like this while fighting Crocodile? Silliness and cartoonishness have always been a part of who Luffy is. If we have gotten a dark and somber muscular man fortified with haki, this would be just another generic power-up. What we got instead was a completely original and thematically fitting concept that will for sure inspire some future transformations in other series. There's also the common criticism that it is overpowered. I still think it's too early to form an opinion on that because every transformation feels overpowered when it is first introduced because it helps to hype up the moment. Eventually, over time, we start to see its limitations, which is exactly what happens here. We already saw in Egghead Island that this form doesn't have unlimited energy and it's not infallible. So in conclusion, the introduction of Gear 5th, while sparking a range of opinions, has proven to be a thematically fitting and exciting addition to the series. As a shonen power-up, it aligns with the established narrative elements of the One Piece world, emphasizing themes of freedom, mythology, and personal growth. It comes at a pivotal moment in the story, marking the transition from one era to another, symbolizing Luffy's ascent as a contender, and showcasing his determination to fulfill his dream of becoming the Pirate King. The criticisms raised against this transformation can be valid, but shouldn't overshadow its thematic and narrative significance. Ultimately, Gear 5th is a testament to Oda's creative storytelling and his ability to keep the series fresh and engaging, maintaining the core spirit of One Piece's freedom, adventure, and unpredictability. It's a reflection of the protagonist's journey and the world he inhabits, embracing the essence of a world where pirates pursue their dreams, challenge destiny, and overcome any obstacle in their path. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of anime, manga, and other fiction right here on Supernova.